Welcome to this week's edition of the Belau Report. I'm Jane Belau. We have a whole new cast for our report to the people, and we have the chamber president who's out of town. We have the city council president who's a candidate, and so we have Ed Hruska from the Rochester City Council. We welcome you.
Thanks for having me.
And Stephanie Podulke, we welcome you back from the county. And Lisa Clark, who is the incoming Chamber of Commerce chairman of the board of directors. I want to tell you, let's see, there it is.
There it is.
That's Lisa, and we welcome you. That's a great picture.
Thank you, Jane.
Now, Stephanie, since you've been gone, we'll give you the first question.
Sure.
And that is the biggest issue facing the county board in the month of September.
The biggest issue was deciding on setting the levy. We have, by law, we have to do that before the end of September. And once we set that levy, we can go lower in December, but we're not allowed to go higher.
You said the magic word, levy.
Levy.
So we'll say to Ed Hruska, the council set a levy for the city, right?
Yes, 10.9%.
That's close to 11 as you can
Yeah, I
get
know,
without going to 11.
Yeah, it was. We have a $270 million budget, and the amount of the levy will be $63.5 million this year. So that's up about 11% from last year.
Okay.
Now that's a starting point, and then we will spend the next few months trying to work that down. Going over all the details and kind of weighing out all the priorities and the needs.
I'm sure you read the same letters to the editor that the rest of us do, and they say, should have started lower.
Yeah.
Oh, but your requests are huge. We'll talk more about that.
Well, actually, I did vote against it, so I would agree with those. I think we could have found ways to start a little lower, quite a bit lower, and I think we should have done that. It kind of creates a little bit, almost too high of a kind of a starting point. But it doesn't really matter. It's that final number that really matters.
Yep. Lisa Clark, you have been on this program before.
Yes.
As the executive director of the Economic Development Agency for DMC. And now you're going to take on the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors.
Yeah.
Where will you find the time?
Well, Jane, I'm already a board member for the chamber, so I just think it's a great opportunity for me to engage at a different level now, more with the staff. And it's just such a match with DMC right now because it's all about business. And the chamber, of course, is about growing businesses and supporting businesses of all sizes. And we need just that for DMC success and, frankly, the success of Rochester.
Okay. And let's just talk about DMC first because that's your main level of effort right now. How is that going to dovetail with the Chamber of Commerce work?
So the DMC has been partnering with many organizations. We partner with RCVB, RDA, Chamber, Ready, Ed's World and the Sports Commission. I mean, we really try very hard to do a lot of partnering throughout the community. So it's another partnership and a very important one for downtown Rochester, of course. And frankly, also for the region because the Chamber is very involved in J2G, which is a regional diversification effort in terms of the economy, and that only supports and complements all the work we're doing in Rochester.
Okay. Now, Stephanie, you've made a change in the administration of the county by adding a new assistant director. Tell us about her.
We added a deputy administrator, is what we're calling that position, because although we hate to think about it, Richard Devlin has been with us for, I think, 46 years in that job, and at some point he's going to think about retiring, and we needed someone we could maybe postpone that retiring a little bit if we took some of the load off of his shoulders. So this assistant deputy director will take over 4 departments and help Richard govern the county, which, if you can imagine how this county has grown in 46 years from when he started, It's
Okay, and Ed Hruska, you're gonna face a similar situation?
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Quenvolt is kind of brought to our attention that he's, looking at retiring soon, and Mr. Newman, our city attorney, a lot of our senior staff people have been there a lot of years. I think, I don't know that Stephen's been there as administrator quite as long as Mr. Devlin, but I know it's over 40 years. And, how do you take and have people that have such a vast amount of knowledge and history and just kind of understanding of our city and that, and then try to move that to a new people. So that's a challenge that we're looking at. It's kind of a bigger part of a bigger plan that we're looking at, and how to make the right smooth transitions to new people in those positions, and yet try to retain as much of the knowledge and kind of understanding of the process as we can.
He knows where all the money is, so
Yeah.
there's
Stephen's-
always some flood control
Yeah.
somewhere.
He's always got a pot of money somewhere on something, but I think overall he's done a super job. He's very passionate and very caring about our city and all the groups that are out there, and I think that's an incredible asset that's going to be difficult to replace. Everybody has going to bring something a little bit different to the different maybe a different level of knowledge or understanding or history, but to have Stephen's knowledge is just going to be really hard to replace, but also that care of people and care of the organizations that he deals with is really unique.
Are you going to do a nationwide search?
I believe that this is more than, certainly won't just be internal. We're going to look at the big picture here and look at how we're going to be able to move forward in the best way possible for our city. And so we'll look at all options.
Anybody mention merging city and county services at this time?
Well, we've always looked at doing those in different areas. A lot of it falls under the jurisdiction of which government you're looking at and how it's going to work. We all have a little bit of different laws. I know with the county, they've got some state laws that they have to, and Stephanie, you can probably speak to this too, but they have a little bit different set of rules that they're living with. So wherever we can find efficiencies, we're always looking for that, especially as we move into the budget time.
Okay. You want to respond?
Well, the county is really an arm of the state, and so not all counties or states do this, that the counties run the social services programs, but in Minnesota we do. And so they set mandates for us. They sort of describe the people they would like us to serve, and they also describe a lot of the services they would like to see us deliver. And then we put in place a lot of our own that are proactive things that we do, a lot of early childhood education, anything we can do that will help people stay out of the system. Parents who need some help, kids who need some help, before they get into any deep end trouble. So we support all those proactive programs without any state help. We do that with our own levy.
Okay. That brings us back to Ed Hruska, who has the amateur sports, and that helps keep people out of the system too, right?
Yeah. I think in our world, especially you look right now in Lisa's world a little bit too, this America's Healthiest City, keeping our kids active, keeping our society busy with things. The amateur sports world is one of the unique things that gives the opportunity for that. Our focus is looking more now at the healthy lifestyles, but also our biggest focus has always been on economic impact and how you can positively impact Rochester through bringing people into town. If any of us have been involved with your kids or your relatives at all in youth sports, you realize that it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of opening up your billfold and covering the expenses that go with it. And we have right now, just in 2016, we had over 80 events that are going to happen here in Rochester. We're kind of winding it down. But with that comes over $25 million of direct spending that has come into the city of Rochester just through the amateur sports events that are held here. So it's a big business, and it's getting more and more competitive. More cities around the state, around the country are looking at it going, we want part of that sports tourism dollars. So they're building new facilities, and they're hiring people to go after those sporting events. So, we have to keep working hard to keep those numbers coming in, but we feel pretty confident right now that we're doing a good job, and I think the $25 million, a lot of people don't realize how much that does for a city. When you're bringing in those kind of dollars, it keeps your restaurants, it keeps your hotels, it keeps your gas stations, it keeps your employees with dollars in their pocket, and those are things that make us a healthier community.
Good, and we'll talk about the proposed hockey arena in just a minute. I want to ask Lisa. Lisa, Rob Miller is the president of the chamber, and you're now the chairman of the board. Tell us what that involves.
I think right now the chamber's so busy on, as Ed pointed out, there's so much change going on in the community and in the region, and competition is critical. I mean, he's spot on when we talk about the competitive environment that Rochester is facing as a whole. So the chamber will be very, very involved, neck deep in anything to do with competition, driving business here, creating a business-friendly environment, and that's critical. The other piece of that, Jane, is going to be workforce, and I know all three of us are working very hard on the workforce issues that are facing everybody in America, and Rochester, because we're in this competitive environment and in a rapid growth phase right now, workforce is going to be critical, and the chamber is going to be focusing on the workforce issues and how we can develop young people to stay in Rochester, and to draw people back to Rochester. So that's going to be a very high priority for the chamber.
Yes. In fact, now, will you be funded by the state soon, or do you have a request into the city council?
For the DMC?
For the DMC.
So every year our DMC budget gets approved by the DMCC board and then by the city council. So we're right in the middle of budget process right now, as well as the city, I think.
So the city's funding it, and there will be a day when those dollars get to a point where some state funding will be available. And,
right.
I'm not sure, Lisa could probably give you a better idea when that is, but currently, as in the past and this year, the city will be funding the DMC EDA's business plan.
Right. And then after this year, we will reach the $200 million threshold of private investment in the Rochester community. And to Ed's point, that's when the state will start to add to the DMCC investment.
So you're the only one at the table who doesn't have a levy that you have
That's
to
right.
design and
I'll leave
meet.
that to my fine, fine colleagues over here.
I think she'll be part of ours.
To what?
She'll be part of our budget.
Of
The
course,
DMC will be.
Of course.
So.
But you have a lot more requests than you have money, right?
Right. Yeah, for example, right now, part of our budget is going to be, we have $2.2 million in new positions requested. In talking to Mr. Quenvold and some conversations with the council, we won't have, we have 29 positions, and we won't actually fund all those positions, but that's where the challenge comes when we talk about a 10.9% starting point and then working our way down. We will start at that number of, here's if the perfect world if we did everything. So how do we prioritize which ones of these we're going to hire, and then which ones we are going to hold off for another year or two. And I think that's part of the big challenge we have. We start with each one of our departments during the year give a kind of an update on how their operations are going, and then they give us an idea of some of their challenges. And so with those challenges, what are the new positions that they need to be more efficient and to run in a better manner? The number one thing that our community wants is great service from the city. And we try to figure out the most efficient and effective ways to do that. And it's not always by hiring new employees, but you do have to have, as the city grows, additional firefighters, additional police officers, those kinds of things.
That was the question in the Post Bulletin. Can we afford to hire more police officers and more firefighters? But you have to, right?
Right, yeah. We added 4 police officers last year, and the firefighters were kind of pushed off to this year. So eventually, as we built a new fire hall, as the city expands, and you want to make sure that you have that level of service, so that when people call, they're not waiting for 10, 15 minutes. If there's someone there, 3, 4 minutes, you need to make sure that there's enough people on staff at all times, at all positions, to be able to do that. So all of our public safety people are extremely important to our community. If you ever have an unfortunate, tragic moment where you need somebody, I think anybody that's ever worked with our Rochester Public Safety's been wowed by the service and the ability and the responsiveness and the care that they give people. But we can't let that guard down. We got to keep making sure that we're providing that.
It's becoming so tenuous all over the country that you don't want some of these unusual things, like, say, cloud experience, to happen first.
Right.
You want to be prepared now, too.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, now the transportation, and then we'll talk housing, and I know that affects everybody. DMC/the Chamber of Commerce, Lisa, for transportation system.
So the transportation, I believe, is the backbone of our community and of DMC, the work DMC is doing, of course. So the city is actually taking lead on the transportation work. And they've hired the consultant team. They just recently had a wonderful sort of kickoff session in all of the transportation work. There's 4 studies underway for transportation. These are in-depth studies. Some of them take longer than others. Some of them will require some type of federal funding perhaps in the future. So this team now is marching forward, trying to figure out what is it that we need in terms of the transportation growth and how we might shift modes of transportation and where the funding will come from and what this transportation looks like in order to start to move people around the community of Rochester.
Does DMC have a position on the high-speed rail?
What we're doing right now, Jane, is we're watching, like everybody else, the high-speed work. There's some studies going on, public and private right now, and we're just sitting back and watching what comes out of those studies so that we can weigh in at some point.
Okay, and the county?
With transit or the rail?
Yes, high-speed rail.
High-speed rail, we're out of that now. We did our feasibility studies. We sort of dissolved our railroad authority, and it's in someone else's hands now.
The studies, you mean?
All of right, everything. I know it's sort of trite, but it's like when they come to town to talk to us, I always want to do that line from the movie, show me the money.
How
are you going to do this? Right, because they say they can do it without any public money. So
well, good luck, right?
Yes, I hope that works.
Yeah.
I'd just like to see it.
Ed, what about the city and transit?
Well, I can tell you that we're certainly studying a lot of studies right now. I feel like sometimes it seems like we're studying too much. We continue to study, we're studying and we continue to get input and we continue to work towards, where are we going, how do we want to see this? And eventually, to use another phrase, the rubber's going to meet the road one of these days, and we're going to have to come up with something. I know when I was served on the DMC board, one of the things that kind of I felt was a good opportunity was the above grade transit, which in my mind I kind of get these like a loop of 2 monorails running around the city and people getting off. We have a skyway system that seems like it's perfect. It doesn't create more congestion on the street level. It's safer for pedestrians and so on. But I'm no expert. I mean, I get my ideas and what I'd like to see done, and yet, you've got to be able to kind of hear what all these studies and all this input and all the experts are going to come back and tell us. So I'm not sure exactly when those days are happening. I know we're still working on it, but eventually here we're going to have to come up with a transit, and hopefully it'll be a really high-end quality that everybody will want to use it, and it'll help us with a lot of the traffic congestion issues we're having today and will have in the future.
How about parking ramps?
Well, we've got a development right now that if that happens, it's going to give us a new parking ramp that's going to create the opportunity to replace an older parking ramp. So some of the plans right there now are contingent on this new development happening, so that we can. We're going to have a shortage of parking in the downtown if we don't get that new parking ramp pretty soon, and have some of this new development happening that's taking some of the old parking ramps down. So hopefully, it sounds like some of these projects that have been on the books for quite a while are now actually going to happen. And so that's exciting to see what that's going to mean to us. But the parking ramps are one thing, getting people in and out of town. I don't know if you noticed, but the roads certainly seem to be more full now than they have been in the past to me when I drive. And so those are things that we all, if you think about the big picture, there's going to be a day where that isn't going to work anymore. And so we've got to have that plan and ready to move forward and come up with a better system eventually.
And the bike lanes?
Well, the bike lanes are something that I'm not a huge fan of, because I don't see. I had a biker one time that told me, he said, I like to bike, but I don't like to be told where to go. And so we kind of see them all over the place, and unfortunately they're not used as much as they could, but I guess that the vision is that they'll be used more and more into the future. They do take part of our roadways for those bike lanes, and I'm not sure that on rainy days, on cold days, on snowy days and that there's much usage out of them at all. So we are in Minnesota, so that becomes a challenge, but I think having that opportunity out there for people to utilize them in a safe manner. I'm not sure bike lanes are the safest in the world the way people drive nowadays, but at least it gives them the opportunity to have a designated area to travel in.
When is your study due?
That's a great question because we have several of them.
That
Anybody?
went on
Are you thinking of the
transportation.
comprehensive plan?
Yeah,
Is
you
that
know,
what
we've been having those dates kind of pushed back on us for quite a while. I know that Public Works has hired a group that now, I'm not sure the exact date of that, but it should be here in the next, I would think next year or so that we'll see some of these. Is that what you're kind of
Yeah,
hearing?
and the DMC studies will take 12 months to 18 months right now. That's the plan.
Right.
Okay, all right, so we'll keep asking that question for
Please
another
do.
There you
year
go.
and see how we come out. But the big question is not even just building it, it's how do you operate it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, if you just look at the road construction that goes on, I know this past, you know, right now it's a key time for people to complain about that because everybody's trying to squeeze their projects in and traffic's backed up and that, you know, so anytime, even when we're gonna create this final transportation program, whatever it may be, there's gonna be problems with a lot of headaches and waiting to get that all built and done, but progress takes time, and you know, some of our areas are getting really nice when the new intersections open up. Everybody loves them and they're great, but in the meantime, it's been some long moments in the summer for travelers, that's for sure.
Okay, one other question, and that is, which is the most promising development that you've approved lately?
Boy.
The St. Mary's one, the one out
Well,
by Apache?
promising, they're all promising in a way. I actually kind of pulled some numbers here that I think are interesting. We just heard yesterday from the Rochester Area Foundation that we have 4,400 multifamily units that are either currently under construction, are leasing space, or are planned for within our city here. And kind of an interesting fact, but we used to average, since 2007, 135 rental units, multifamily units per year being built. This year, we have 1,156, so over 1,000 more units this year than the average over the last almost 10 years. So you see this huge spike into multifamily, and then you look at regular single-family homes. We've been averaging 299, and this year we have 300. So it's almost, that number is staying flat with residential homes, but the multifamily homes are going up in a huge spike over these last few years. And I guess we can all owe that a little bit to Lisa down at the end of the table here. We're going to build them, and she's going to fill them up, I guess.
That's right. That's my job. Thanks, Ed.
So.
True partnership, right?
But I think these are some staggering numbers to think about 4,400. If you drive around town and you see these big units going on around town, it's amazing the investment that people are coming to our city and putting into our community for the future. So pretty exciting stuff.
If
We
you
don't
build
leave
it,
the
they
county.
will come.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so we'll say the county will help to fill them too, right?
The county's growing, although we are trying to be more efficient with the number of staff people we have. But
What does that mean?
we have done electronic data storage. We have a project that we call Leap and Lean, where we have Kaizen events where the wall is covered with Post-it notes, following one piece of paper through departments and seeing how we can avoid having that happen. And so the people who were a little worried in the beginning about the Kaizen events, that they thought maybe they would lose their jobs, but it hasn't been that at all. It's that they are more efficient in their jobs, and so we can serve more people. I think we used to serve, I'm going to get in trouble for these numbers, but it was something like 26 people per county employee a couple years ago, and now it's up over 32 or so people per county that we serve without having to add more staff, except for having to add more staff for the METS system, but don't get me started on that. That is a system from the state that's
Okay.
big trouble.
Biggest challenge facing the county right now. You.
Biggest challenge facing the county right now. I guess it's housing and mental health. We have a lot of people who have mental health issues, who are not sick enough to require hospitalization, a little bit too they end up in the jail or in the emergency room for days on end because we have no place for them, because the state closed the state hospitals, promised us money that we could build community resources for people, and the money never came. So they languish in the emergency room, which you can imagine would not be a place to get mentally healthy, or they end up in jail because they do something just a little bit violent, and we're not set up in the jails. But the latest gift from the state was, well, we used to pay half of the daily rate for keeping someone at Anoka, for example. And the new commissioner of Department of Health and Services, Humans, said, hey, you're going to have to pay it all now. Oh, and by the way, we're going to raise the rates 50%. So it costs the taxpayers about $1,800 a day to keep someone at Anoka when we have no place to put them. We need transitional housing for people with mental health issues.
Oh, whoa,
and
that's
it's a
transferring the responsibility to the local.
we call it shift and shaft.
Yeah. All right, Lisa Clark, on behalf of the Chamber and DMC, what is the biggest challenge that you see in the next year?
I think for the Chamber, on behalf of the Chamber, I would say it's workforce development. It's creating that workforce and that pipeline and competent employees that we can draw to this community, the talent. It's all about the talent for us. And I think that's a challenge for all of us. I think it's the greatest challenge for the Chamber, and the Chamber's taking it on. And I'm thrilled to see that. It's going to be a big lift, but I think it'll be very powerful for all of us.
And we'll add the schools to that group, too.
Right, absolutely.
Yep. All right, Ed Hruska, the biggest challenge facing the city of Rochester.
Well, I think right now it's moving forward for us. It's going to be the budget. We want to try to, we listen to people at Truth and Taxation. We listen to, the concerns that people have about trying to be able to keep running their businesses and some of the impacts that the taxes put on their ability to do so. Homeowners making things affordable for everybody. It goes a long way with us when we deal with all these things, but you still have to, and we talk about new positions, as we hire 4 new police officers this year and 4 new police officers last year, you've got a need for more dispatchers, you've got a need for more prosecutors, you've got a need for more investigators. All these kind of things are things that go just in that public safety area. So when we look at 29 new positions this year, you have additional HR person because we have more people now, and more IT people because there's more security. These are all, people say, well, you don't need to hire these people. Well, if you're going to be efficient, you kind of need to figure out which ones you really do need to hire. And so I think for us, trying to prioritize, I don't know if people at home can see this, but these are all the inefficient roads that we have in our city. I don't know where the lights are at there, but in red there. So it kind of shows you that we have a lot of roads to rebuild and to make sure that they're plowed properly, all those kind of things, that we have enough staff to do the things that the people expect out there.
And winter's coming.
And winter is coming, yeah.
Oh, we have to do one quick word on the hockey arena that's being discussed with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and different people,
Sure.
the addition on the Civic Center.
Sure. Well, and there's been kind of a rumor out there that the area was going to be taking up the back park, and that's completely false. There's been some look at trying to update the old arena, which is already 30 years old, with a new arena that would be in that same footprint. So it would be in that same area to try to update it, create more Broadway, the ability to do Broadway plays and to do more, better concerts and to do different things. So it's not just a hockey arena, it's a multi-use arena, but we have no dollars planned and no plans for a 30-year-old arena that is really going to start to be pretty useless as we move forward without some kind of a plan. So I think there's private investors out there that are interested in some plans that are being looked at to see what we can do to refresh that area.
All right, we each have 25 seconds for closing statement. Lisa.
On behalf of the Chamber, I would say that the Chamber is working very diligently on economic diversity, working with the region to make sure that we are supporting Rochester and shoring Rochester up, if you will, creating that workforce that will come through the pipeline to fill these jobs that we're looking for, and the growth of this community over the next 20 years is pretty amazing. We're in a great, great place economically right now.
Okay, Stephanie.
I invite everyone on the 13th, Thursday the 13th of October, to come out to Gage East. We're having our grand opening of supportive housing for homeless families and homeless youth. It starts at 11:30. There'll be tours, please come out and see what the county has done to help with the homeless issue that we have here.
Ed?
I just want to wish the best to Sandra Means, who I've worked with many years on the council, and I know she'll be on your show next month. Sandra is an absolutely fun, thoughtful, respectful, caring, and she'll be missed a lot. I'll miss her a lot. I know she's going to be on your show next month, and she's only got about another month or two on the council, and I wish her the best in her as she moves on. She's been a great council member.
Thank you, Ed Hruska. Thank you, Stephanie Podulke and Lisa Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you, our viewers, for being with us. We'll be with you again next week, same time, same channel. In the meantime, have a very good week. Have a very good night.